I was on mile 3 of my pre-dawn loop through Riverfront Park when the bike patrol cut across my line. A brake cable screeching over aluminum. Stop! Hands where I can see them. The rookie, Tyler Knox, had a hard edge in his voice, pitched half a step too high. His partner held 2 paces back. I stood there in sweat-wet shorts and a faded city rec tee, breathing even, while phones were already lifted, red record dots winking along the path. A black and white rolled up. Chief Dana Walsh leaned out the window, eyes going wide before she swallowed it and whispered, "Sir, that's the mayor." Knox clenched his jaw harder, and the city I run every morning narrowed to 2 fists and a cold lens. My watch buzzes, 6:02, and a banner skates across the glass. State shelter funding. Dial in by 6:30. 28 minutes. That call means 200 winter beds, an outreach van, and a real chance to prove we can reform without another headline about tents and handcuffs. If I'm late, the grant drifts to a suburb with prettier optics, and I get filed under speechmakers in running shoes. I keep my hands visible. The air tastes like river iron and wet leaves. A goose heckles the sunrise. The second hand ticks on the glass like a metronome you can't mute. At 6:30, they decide whether Harbor City is serious. I have 28 minutes to prove it in practice. In our department, proactive is a scoreboard. Rookies don't brag about cases solved. They swap detention tick marks, match on description. Usually a black runner in dark gear, which is every 3rd person at sunrise. The briefing slides call it presence-based deterrence. Contacts, compliance, crime. No bullet for wrists after zip ties or the hours spent explaining your own body to a flashlight. I signed those budgets and marked up the language, crossing out the quasi-quotas. But culture snaps back the moment you look away. No motorcade today, no crest on a polo. Just salt on a shirt and old trainers. To Knox, I'm not a memo or a presser. I'm a silhouette under cotton, a moving statistic. Blue strobes dance in my watch glass. A mom with a stroller slows and stares into her phone, as if an instruction manual might climb out and save us both. ID. Knocks in tones like a spell. I feel the old logic stacking like paper. Vague lookout, early hour, running equals furtive. I've tightened those definitions a dozen times. But on the concrete path, breath steaming by the water, I'm a stranger in my own system, watching the machine that swears it doesn't know my face. The haptic flutters at my wrist. 26 minutes to deadline. I widen my stance, hands open at shoulder height, voice low enough to slow his pulse. Officer Knox, what's the lawful basis for the stop? The words were even paced 1 breath per clause, so my tone did the work my title would not. His nameplate flashed when he shifted. I read it, then the 4 digits on his chest. Badge 4176. Shoulder cam blinking amber. I repeated his exact phrasing back to him for the record. You said, "Stop, hands where I can see 'em." I'm compliant. What crime are you investigating? The watch thrummed 3 short haptics, 1 long. My thumb found the crown and pressed. Meridian. A discreet green ring bloomed on the glass. Legal hold activated. Citywide alert to council, the clerk, the oversight chair. Auto backup of every camera in a 200-yard geofence. Leadership pings queued. All by policy, all disclosed, all lawful. As required by our published policy, every Meridian alert is predisclosed to sworn personnel and triggers a lawful legal hold with automatic retention. No secret recordings, no surprises. I angled my body so the path crowd could see my face and my empty hands, and asked again, "Am I being detained? Or am I free to continue my run?" Perez flicked her eyes from me to Knox, weighing the ground. "Ty, dispatch said hold position until..." She started. "Ma'am," I said gently, "for accuracy. Time is 6:04. Please note Officer Knox's badge number and your own. I'm happy to provide my name after you state the specific description and articulable suspicion." Knox's jaw worked. He met my gaze and looked away, then back, fingers tightening on the zip ties clipped to his belt. The river wind pressed my shirt to my ribs and cooled the sweat at my collarbone. The watch's green ring kept circling, patient as a lighthouse. Knox stepped in and spun me, rough at the elbow, plastic hiss snapping from his belt. Neon zip ties. I caught the color as the first loop tightened cold around my wrist bone. "Sir, you're being detained," he said, voice up an octave. "We're gonna transport first, sort later." "Transport to where?" I asked, steady. "On what articulated suspicion?" The plastic ratcheted. A dull heat flared at my skin. My watch tilted in the angle of the twist, Meridian's green ring circling like an eye that did not blink. 6:06 a.m. Perez winced. "Tyler, hold up." Dispatch said hold position until the supervisor arrives. "I'm senior on scene," he snapped, as if the words conferred rank he hadn't earned. He tapped the pouch on my running belt with 2 knuckles. "Concealed item." He yanked out the small orange whistle I carried for dark trails and dogs. Held it up like a prize. "Possible dangerous object." "It's a safety whistle," I said. The crowd grumbled. A low current. Someone muttered, "That's the mayor's running route." And another voice, "That's just a whistle, man." Knox's eyes flicked to the circle of phones, then back to me. He tried to tilt my head down with his palm for the camera angle. I resisted just enough to keep my face in frame. "Officer," I said clearly, "please note for the record. You have tightened restraints on a compliant runner and identified a visible safety whistle as a concealed item." Perez edged closer, palms open. "Ty, take a breath. We don't need to." "We're moving," he said, fingers finding the second zip. The neon scraped, then clicked around my other wrist. The little ridges bit. The sound was precise, unignorable. A metronome with teeth. "You can ask your questions at the station." I angled my shoulders so the body cam, and the park's cameras, could see the whistle in his hand, the ties, my relaxed stance. "For accuracy," I said to the lens, "time 6:07. I remain nonviolent and compliant." My heart climbed, but my breath stayed even. The watch hummed and sent another quiet ripple across my skin. Somewhere behind us, a stroller wheel rattled over a seam in the path. A goose honked as if keeping count. Perez lowered her voice to him. "You're over your skis, Ty. Policy says secure the subject," he shot back, loud enough for the phones. "Senior on scene makes the call." He took my elbow again, angling me toward the curb where the cruiser idled, exhaust ghosting in the cool air. The crowd parted, then tightened, phones raised like a jury that refused to sit. My wrists pulsed against the neon teeth. My watch marked the seconds I could not waste. Knox angled his chest so the body cam stared me down. I lifted my chin and spoke to the lens, each word spaced like stepping stones. "Please do not remove evidence," I said. "This whistle, these restraints, and Officer Knox's statements are evidence. I am compliant." The neon ties bit again as I flexed my hands to keep feeling in my fingers. 6:08 a.m. Meridian legal hold active, the green ring circling, patient as tide. Perez froze, eyes cutting to the blinking amber on his shoulder. She knew what those words meant. Chain of custody, contamination, policy review. Knox hesitated a beat, then tightened his grip on my elbow, as if pressure could undo the record already building around us. "Name," he demanded. Now. Silence would have been easy. My name, my title, could end it. But an end built on rank would teach the wrong lesson and change nothing by sunrise tomorrow. I built a system that promised equal rules in daylight and in shade. Time to test it without a spotlight. I swallowed once, tasted river and metal, and kept my voice steady. "Officer, I'll provide my name when you state the specific crime suspected and the description you're using." A ripple passed through the crowd. The stroller wheel clicked to a stop. Perez's mouth opened, then closed, the warning dying on her tongue. Knox's jaw hardened. He tugged. I didn't plant my feet. I simply kept pace slow enough that every camera could read the marks on my wrists and the small orange whistle in his hand. The watch hummed, a quiet drumbeat under the noise. I let it count. I let the system write itself in real time. "Officer Knox," I said, loud enough for the phones and the geese. "Harbor City General Order 3.12, subsection B. 1. Require specific articulable facts for a detention. Please state them. I turned my head just enough for the body cam to catch my mouth. For the record, dispatch issued a hold position order at 6:09. Your partner referenced it. I am complying with that order. Perez swallowed and glanced at her radio as if the words might crawl back inside it. Knox's fingers twitched on my elbow. Sir, I'm giving you a lawful command. And I'm following it, I said, breath steady. I'm standing still, hands visible, not resisting. You've already searched my belt and removed a safety whistle you labeled concealed. I kept my voice plain, teacher flat. Per 3.12, adopted March 15th, a vague description, black male, athletic build, is insufficient. State the crime and the match. A murmur rolled through the path. Someone near the stroller said, he's right about the hold. Another voice, he said the date. Perez tried again, softer. Tie. Dispatch did say hold for a supervisor. Knox's eyes skipped to the crowd, then back to me. I watched his throat move. We are investigating suspicious behavior. What behavior? I asked. Running in a public park? Wearing a city rec shirt? Carrying a whistle? He opened his mouth and no words came. I flexed my fingers to keep them warm. The ties scraped, small and sharp. My watch buzzed, 6:10 a.m. Meridian's green ring turning like a tide clock. I tipped my face to his shoulder cam. For accuracy, I said evenly, I have asked you twice to articulate suspicion. You have not. Dispatch directed hold position. I am complying. I will not obstruct, flee, or withhold my name once you meet the standard you swore to. A beat of silence. Then, behind him, a radio crackled, thin as tinfoil. Unit 12, hold your location. Supervisor en route. Repeat, hold. Knox flinched. His voice, when it came, wasn't the bark from a minute ago. It wavered, bare edge showing. We can hold. The hum arrived before the shadow, thin as a cicada, steady as a ceiling fan. I glanced up. The civilian oversight drone drifted over the sycamores and settled 20 feet above us. Twin LEDs winking. By ordinance, it broadcast a link in the park's public channel. I saw phones tilt, thumbs tapping, the drone's view popping into feeds like a second sky. My watch shivered twice. Meridian overlaid 3 tiles across the glass, crisp as a dossier laid on a desk. Tile 1, Unit 12, mic mute. Timestamp 6 hours 5 minutes and 37 seconds. Reason, blank. Policy flag, red. Tile 2, an internal chat bubble with Knox's unit ID. Text, gonna check an elite runner. The words sat there like a dare, the scare quotes around elite cutting more than they concealed. Tile 3, archive, complaint hashtag 2024-1127. Officer M. Perez. Status, closed, no action. Meridian flashed the addendum. New corroboration detected. Reopen. A single line from her original file scrolled up, the sentence that had gone nowhere. Deputy Chief pushing numbers plan. Detentions for stats. The drone's gimbal tilted, catching Knox's hand hover near his shoulder cam. He had thumbed the mic off for his first commands. My watch said so, and the drone's ambient pickup replayed the silence like a missing tooth. The crowd started narrating for him. He muted it, someone said. That's a violation. Perez's face drained. Her eyes flicked from the sky to my wrists to Knox's shoulders, as if the complaint she'd filed had just climbed out of the river and stood dripping beside us. She whispered, not to me but to the air. They buried it. For accuracy, I told the lens voice even. Unit 12's mic was muted at 0605 hours. The civilian drone is streaming. Unit chat referenced an elite runner. Officer Perez filed a prior complaint about detention quotas. Knox's grip tightened. That's not what it says. I angled my watch just enough for his body cam to catch the green ring tiles. The ties scraped when I flexed my fingers. The plastic ridges ticked like a cheap stopwatch. The drone zoomed, catching the words on my glass, the timestamp in the corner. the small orange whistle still pinched white in Knox's fist. The park held its breath. Then the stroller kid shouted, delighted and loud, pointing at the sky, "Robot camera, 611." The drone hovered. There was nowhere left to hide. The supervisor strobes washed the trunks blue, and then Chief Walsh herself stepped through the ring of phones like a diver breaking the surface. She took in the drone, my wrists, Knox's fist around the whistle, Perez's face gone paper white. Her voice traveled farther than the siren ever did. "Officer Knox, stand down." Then, louder, to the crowd and the camera on her own shoulder. "Harbor City acknowledges a policy breach. Sir, I apologize." Perez found her voice and stepped in, palms open to the lens. "For the record," she said. "Clear, steady." Dispatch issued a hold position order at 0609. I confirmed the instruction. The radio at her shoulder crackled as if nodding along. Knox froze, but Walsh was already gloving up. "Zip ties off. Bag them as evidence." She ordered a sergeant hustling up behind her. "Tag. Time 6:12. Chain of custody begins with me." She turned so her mic caught it all. "The safety whistle is not contraband. It will be logged as seized and returned. Bodycam mics will remain unmuted per ordinance." The neon bit once more as the plastic slid, then lifted. Blood rushed back to my fingers like an argument finding its voice. The sergeant dropped the ties into a clear envelope that crackled loud enough for the phones to hear. Walsh faced me, no whisper this time. "Mayor Bishop," she said, head high for the live stream. "I'm sorry." I nodded, letting the title sit there for everyone who'd suspected and everyone who hadn't. The little kid in the stroller blinked, as if the word mayor were a trick of light. I breathed once, held up my marked wrists so the lenses could read the ridges, then palmed the orange whistle from Knox's stiff hand and set it back in my belt pouch. "Release him," Walsh added, though there was nothing left to release. I checked the watch, 6:13, and thumbed the green ring. "Meridian Press," I said, and the same system that had summoned lawyers now sent a ping to every city reporter, every neighborhood stringer. I turned to the path and the people who had stayed. "I'm going to finish my run," I told them, "and then we'll talk, right here." I jogged the last stretch of the 5K, not fast, wrist stinging, letting every passerby see the marks in the whistle. The drone kept pace at a polite height, a quiet witness. When I crossed my usual chalk line by the boathouse, the reporters were already clustering, mics bristling like cattails in the wind. I stepped onto the low concrete lip by the fountain and lifted my hands, the red dents glinting. Walsh stood to the side, jaw set, eyes on her officers. The status flipped in the open air. I wasn't a silhouette anymore, and the system that misread me a mile back was now taking notes. EMTs rubbed warmth back into my hands and painted the red grooves with cooling gel while cameras watched the shine. Chief Walsh didn't dodge. She stood to my left, mic hot, eyes front. "Harbor City accepts responsibility for the harm caused this morning," she said. "Medical costs will be covered. $1, $9.80 for immediate care and follow-up hand therapy. A written apology, signed by the chief and city attorney, will be delivered within 72 hours. A temporary protective detail is assigned for 14 days or until the preliminary review closes, whichever is longer." Her sergeant lifted the clear evidence envelope, neon zip ties coiled like fishhooks, and read the chain of custody timestamp into his lapel cam. My watch buzzed, 6:26. I raised a finger to the press, stepped one pace off the fountain, and hit the dial. "Secretary Nguyen," I said when the line clicked. "We're in the park live. The incident you're hearing about is real. We'll still meet every term of the shelter grant." A quiet, then an exhale you could hear over a speakerphone. "Mayor Bishop," she said, "we've watched the stream. The state confirms funding. Get the beds open." I looked back at the crowd. "You heard her," I said, letting the words carry across the water. 200 beds, on schedule. I set the small orange whistle on the stone lip beside the evidence bag and the EMT's invoice, numbers stark in the morning light. Behind the mics, the stroller kid held up his own toy whistle and grinned as if he'd just stamped the receipt himself. By 9, we were in the council chamber, the high room of our city. Flags stiff as verdicts, microphones lined like chess pieces. The neon zip ties sat coiled in their evidence bag at the clerk's elbow. I set my small orange whistle beside them and felt the sting on my wrists under clean bandages. Walsh took a seat to my left, the union counsel and the deputy chief to my right. The feed light over the doors went red. "I'm issuing the Harbor City model today," I said, thumb resting on the watch crown. "Some parts are executive policy under management rights. Others go to bargaining immediately. All are lawful. All are public." The deputy chief cleared his throat. "Mayor, changes to stop policy touch working conditions. We need meet and confer." "And you'll have it," I said. "But per Section 4C of the MOU, investigative standards are a policy prerogative. We're not touching pay, hours, or safety equipment without process. We are banning a practice." I raised the whistle, tiny and absurdly bright in the marble glare. Item 1. Effective now, pretext stops are banned. No detentions based solely on equipment violations, minor code infractions, or vague descriptions. A stop needs a specific nexus to a crime under investigation or an immediate safety hazard. General Order 3.12 is amended. Language is on the screens. Contract-tight clauses blinked up behind me. Item 2. Geofenced auto-upload, I said. Every body cam, dash cam, and city drone in designated public spaces will auto-upload with a 30-second pre-event buffer. Mic mute is disabled except for 3 enumerated exceptions: medical privacy, attorney-client, and assault reporting, victim privacy. Any mute triggers an audible tone and a log requiring supervisor sign-off. I added the safeguard I wanted on the record. Privacy rules. Unless a case opens or a complaint is filed, raw footage auto-deletes after 45 days. Audit metadata and access logs are retained for 2 years. Faces are blurred on public release. RAW is held under protective order. Every access is logged and reviewed. Union counsel leaned in. Access to raw footage is a negotiable term. Item 3 covers it, I said. An independent civilian board with confidential raw footage access under our charter's oversight authority. Members: 2 residents from impacted neighborhoods, 1 public defender, 1 former prosecutor, 1 data scientist. Background checks, NDAs, felony penalties for leaks. They see the raw, the public gets the findings. Walsh nodded toward the dais. We will comply. Weekly reports to council. Item 4, weekly random audits, I said. 5% of all stops stratified by district, pulled by the auditor's office outside the chain of command. Results published monthly. Stop rates by race, reasons, outcomes, compliance with 3.12. Training and discipline follow due process. The deputy chief shifted. You're building a dragnet on us. I'm building trust, I said. Item 5, early warning system. Complaint clusters, mic mute attempts, chat language, like elite runner, and over-threshold stop rates trigger review within 7 days. 3 similar complaints in 90 days, coaching and ride-alongs. A 4th without correction, removal from field pending hearing. No secret lists, no ambush discipline. Standard notice, representation, appeal. I held up the whistle again. Item 6, paid empathy patrols. Residents walk a shift with foot patrols, observers, not informants. $25 an hour, training included. They carry no enforcement gear, write no tickets, and file public notes on what they saw. The point is contact without cuffs. We're moving fast, Union Counsel said. We're on the clock, I answered. Beds open in 2 weeks. These rules go live in 10 days. Meet and confer on implementation starts tomorrow at 9. Board seats are posted by noon. First audit report drops 30 days from today. All documentation, policies, metrics, and a staffed phone line will be online. I rested the whistle beside the bagged neon ties, 2 small artifacts in a room built for declarations. We promised equal rules. Today we write them down, wire them into the tools, and let the public watch them work. I tapped my watch and looked to the clerk. Transmit the full packet policies, legal hold logs, and this morning's preserved stream to the State Attorney General's office before close of business. 6 months later, I stood in the glass-walled data room off council chambers. Jacket on the chair, sleeves rolled to where the bandage line used to be. The orange whistle sat on the console beside a mug ring. Screens pulsed blue with dashboards, district heat maps, line graphs, the audit team's weekly polls. The clerk read the numbers into the record while the feed light glowed. Pretext stops down 60% citywide, she said, pointer tapping the descending slope. Use of force complaints down 38%. Case clearance up 22%. We didn't cheer, we exhaled. Walsh nodded once. The board's data scientist slid a sticky that read, sustained 24 weeks. I added 2 tiles to the main screen, trust and proof. Complaints dismissed for no video available down 71%. I said, and a bar fell like a curtain. Resident trust survey, patrol encounters, up 14 points citywide. Up 19 and 21 in the 2 districts that asked for empathy patrols first. The room absorbed it, less noise, more receipts. On another screen, 3 mayors joined by video, Southport, Riverton, Millhaven, each with our packet open like a borrowed playbook. We're adopting the Harbor City model this quarter, Southport's mayor said. No spin, just intent. Pretext ban, auto-upload, independent board. Send your audit templates. I thumbed the watch crown and pushed everything live, policies, checklists, red lines. No paywalls, no watermarks. The whistle caught a stripe of late sun and glowed like a small beacon. Take them, I said into the mic. Take our mistakes too. By afternoon, the state AG's seal filled the center screen. Caption: Investigation opened. Quota-driven numbers plans. Subpoenas to 6 departments statewide. Among the exhibits was a chat that looked too familiar. Need detentions for stats. Perez watched from the back row, jaw set, steady. The deputy chief who buried her complaint was already off operations. Now the state would ask him the questions we couldn't. I traced the fall of the stop line with a finger without touching the glass. Outside, a siren passed without lingering. The model wasn't a miracle. It was paperwork with teeth, cameras wired for truth, neighbors paid to be present, and a promise that data would be a mirror, not a weapon. The numbers held. The rooms were warmer. The river path felt like a place to breathe. I keep a shadow of that morning on my wall. A small display case with a snapped neon zip tie curled into a question mark and the date card beneath the glass. Sometimes I touch it. The skin is clear now, but the memory still aches. The orange whistle hangs on the key hook. Habit. At dawn, I still run the water line. The river smells like copper and rain. Patrol rolls by slow, window down. Morning, Mr. Bishop. Not hey you. Not mayor. A name. Across the path, Mrs. Alvarez of Sunday Tamales gets a Buenos dias, Senora. With her name, she laughs, surprised in the best way. A gap-toothed boy tracks the bike patrol with his eyes. Do they watch the cameras or do the cameras watch them? He asks. His dad smiles. Both, he says, and squeezes the boy's shoulder like a promise. At the boathouse, I touch the chalk line and give the whistle a short blow. Not an alarm, just a soft pulse into the morning air. The sound dissolves into gulls and coffee steam, and under it I hear a low hum. The city doing the boring work that saves lives. I head back to the office, shrug off my jacket, and set the orange whistle on the edge of the desk beside my city credential and the shadow of that zip tie in its frame. Small things on a big surface. Exactly how it should be. Real power lives in equal rules, not in ranks. Ever been stopped for matching a description? Drop your story in the comments. Your voices shape the data and the reforms. If this hit home, tap subscribe so you don't miss the next real-world case of change.